It's great to be with you on this Monday. I trust you had a wonderful Lord's Day. We certainly did here. We're thankful that the temperatures were decent and just had a great day. Today I'd like to look at a verse that is, I think, very important when it comes to having a right perspective on what's going on and keeping ourselves in a place that we know we are a blessing and we know that God is working through us. One of the most important aspects of our life is to glorify God by being an instrument of the love of God to others, to reach people with the gospel, and to be edifying one to another within the church family and other believers that we know. Very, very important. And when we get selfish and when we think more about ourselves than others, that's when we lose the joy. That's when we lose the sense of purpose in our life. And then other things can be very overwhelming to us. And one of the things that will keep us from truly loving one another is when we do things that we know might cause another brother to stumble. I'm not going to go through the background of 1 Corinthians chapter 8. It's a very important aspect of the church and understanding what was going on there in Corinth. But basically it got down to the fact that to those who had been saved, having anything to do with the meat that was offered to idols would be causing them to worship in the pagan religions that they had come out of. And it goes even beyond that, where what it was like in those areas and so forth. But let me just read the conclusion of chapter 8, verse 12. But when ye sin so against the brethren, and wound their weak conscience, ye sin against Christ. Wherefore, if meat make my brother to offend, I will eat no meat, while the world standeth, lest I make my brother to offend. This is one section of Scripture that I think is seen more about the liberty we have than the strong admonition about not being a stumbling block. What the Apostle Paul says under inspiration here is very stirring. He said, I do not want, in verse 11, my weaker brother to perish, for whom Christ died. I cannot be a sin against the brethren. I cannot wound their weak conscience, for if they go against their conscience and do not walk by faith as they perceive it, it's going to greatly injure their walk with God. And he makes that strong statement, if it takes not eating any more meat while the world standeth, I won't eat meat because I will not cause my brother to offend. You know, I really wish Bible-believing Christians would take that to heart. In the name of liberty, so many Christians do things that cause people to stumble. They argue for social drinking, not realizing that can be the first step to drunkenness. They'll be involved in going to places that can really wound the conscience of believers that came out of those kind of situations. And so we as believers need to be very careful that we are loving and are willing to go the extra mile, not to discourage. We can certainly teach and all, but we cannot be involved in wounding consciences. Why do I say that? Because it says in verse 12, ye sin against Christ. And when we are more concerned about our selfish liberty than we are about the conscience of another brother, we're actually sinning against Christ by hurting that brother or sister. A lot could be said here, but let's be careful about our families. Let's be careful about people around us. Let's not be selfish. Let's be very wise and edifying so that we can be encouraged in this dark day that we're being used by God to do a work for Him.